and I am our VP of Community Impact here at Sun. I will not be talking for very long, but wanted to make sure we've got a little bit of an intro into what Sun is if you're new to the organization. So we'll get started. Just starting off right off the bat with introductions. Like I said, my name's Annie Wolf with Solar United Neighbors. I'm our Vice President of Community Impact. We're joined by three of our amazing Go Solar team members. So Roger, I'll hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, Roger. I'm use he, him pronouns in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm our director of Go Solar programs, and I will turn it over to Fatima and then Vincent.
Hi, I'm Fatima Ghani. I'm based in New Jersey, she, her pronouns. I'm also on the Go Solar team as the Impact District Program Manager, and I'll pass it over to Vincent.
Hi, I'm Vincent Yurkovich. I'm the Go Solar Project consultant here, and I'm in Kansas City.
Awesome, thanks. All right, so just quickly what we'll be going through today. Who and what is Solar United Neighbors? Our theory of change, so why we exist. I'll go over a few of our resources, and then we'll switch over into the Ask Me Anything format where you will be able to type your questions, raise your hand and ask questions of our team, and we'll hopefully get to everybody. So Solar United Neighbors, if you haven't joined us for any events at this point, we are a vendor-neutral national 501c3 nonprofit. And we help people go solar, join together, and fight for energy rights. So we help people go solar through our bulk purchase programs, which you might hear as Switch Together or co-ops. And so those are groups of people who get together on a location-based basis to go solar. But we believe that that's not the only step to your solar journey. That's just the first. So we are around to help everyone join together and fight for solar access and affordability around the country, both on a local, regional, and national scale. Oh, and just make sure that you're muted if you're not asking a question yet. So a few of our resources that we have on offer, which Fatima, Roger, and Vincent are all very, very familiar with, our Solar Help Desk, where we can give people a free roof review. We can, so if you're interested in, if you haven't gone solar yet and you're interested in knowing if your roof is good for solar, we can do that. We can chat with you by email, by phone, anything like that. And we're really just here to answer any questions that you have specifically or generally about solar. So, if you are a solar owner, if you are a potential solar owner, if you're interested in community solar, really it runs the gamut and we are here to help. So that's it. That's all the presentation piece of it. So we'd love to get to your questions. I think the chat is happening already, although people may be dropping in where they are calling in from, but I will stop sharing my screen and we can just go from here. So for those of you who have questions, feel free to raise your hand. We'll take you off of mute. If you feel more comfortable asking your question in the chat, you're more than welcome to do so there as well. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, Annie, can you tell us how to raise hands in this?
Oh, great question. Yes. So if you go down to the bottom of your screen, you'll see next to the chat feature, there's a react. It's got a little heart, and you'll be able to click on that. And there's an option to raise your hand at the very bottom. You'll see send effect and then reactions and then raise your hand. So. Awesome. Tracy, come off mute and ask your question.
Hi, I bought solar panel or solar energy a few years ago, about 4 years ago. I bought the solar panels outright. Last March, they stopped working, just flat out stopped working. And I've been trying to get a hold of the company to come and fix the problem. My understanding is now this company is going bankrupt, and I'm wondering what my options are now.
Well, I'm happy to take that. Sorry about your issues. Unfortunately, we hear that a lot. That's what happens when you run a solar help desk. So the good news is even if your solar installer went out of business, you still do you know the name of the inverter company, Tracy, or have access to the production app?
The company that I bought them from Sonova. I don't know if
Okay.
the actual.
So the good news is also Sonova is not out of business.
Okay, cool.
So what we can do is if you reach out to us, we have our help desk on our website, or you can, Fatima, if you can just put it in the chat, actually. It's just helpdesk at solarunitedneighbors.org. We have a customer service contact over there. So we're happy to share that info with you. But also we can put in we can talk. We don't have customer service contacts at every solar company, but we do over there. But usually, so reaching out to them, which you've done already, and hopefully if we can give them a nudge, they'll be a little bit more responsive. Because we can help, hopefully help escalate that.
The additional question.
But yeah, but in addition to that, the other thing that you can do is, even if your installer goes out of business, your panels and inverter companies still have a warranty. So even if that installer isn't there, the products should still be working. So for example, not that we're endorsing them, we're a vendor neutral nonprofit, but the most common inverter companies are SolarEdge and Enphase.
Yes.
But there are a million other ones also. So so most folks have an app to track production on their phone from either SolarEdge or Enphase, and that should be able to tell you if the system's working or not. But even if your installer is not responsive or not in business, you should be able to reach out to those companies, SolarEdge or Enphase, and they can hopefully put you in contact with other local installers in the area that can help fix issues. We also have a O&M is the term for it, operations and maintenance. We have a list of about 100 companies all over the country that help with operations and maintenance. So we definitely can help you find one in your area as well. And then usually what you'll need to do is there will be like a system ID number that you'll see on the app, or actually on the inverter, which is usually by your electric panel in your basement, or at least the gateway, which is the communications device. And then you should be able to contact your the inverter company and say, hey, if your installer out of business, yep. And then right, I see Dottie's putting in the chat here, but right, you pay SolarEdge a fee, which we wish they didn't have, and then they switch the communications access to another installer so they can help diagnose it and then come out and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. But yeah, please reach out to us, and we are happy to help bug them, and hopefully that'll do the trick.
Awesome. Dorothy has her hand raised, and then we have a couple questions in the chat I want to make sure we get to. So Dorothy first. Oop, Dorothy, you're still muted. I can unmute you if you're having issues with getting off of mute. Let's see. I'm asking her to unmute.
Okay.
There we go. Now we can hear you.
All right. I'm in Key West, Florida. I've had solar for 4 years, and I've tried to get a hold of someone, I don't know what you call it, to collect. Oh dear. Now I'm stuck.
So someone from a solar company, or your solar company, or
The solar company that installed went bankrupt.
okay.
And so, we could never get information from them. But I know that you can have like a backup, so you could even get paid for the extra energy.
Is your system working okay right now, or is it?
It's working fine.
Okay, that's great. Well, yes, same thing. We can connect you to other installers if you do want to get, battery backup. I don't know if that's what you were thinking of. But yeah, we same thing. We have done a lot of work in the Keys before. We have Florida is actually our biggest state in terms of where we have the most folks that are, consider themselves members at Sun and have gone solar through our programs there. So we definitely can help connect you with installers in that area. Same thing, if your system's working, that's great. You still have the equipment warranties, even if the installer's out of business. But I know we do know a bunch of installers there, so they'll be able to, can help you. And every time I talk about a solar company, the same thing happens, that we're vendor neutral. We're not endorsing them. Also, our goal is never going to be to give you one if there's like people in your area, our goal will be to ideally give you 2 or 3 options so that you can, reach out and talk to multiple ones because we're a nonprofit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the problem is that I still have to pay over $100 for energy.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I feel like it should pretty much be close to free.
yeah, I mean, it totally depends, obviously, on your electricity usage and your electricity bill. I think off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure that Key West does not have one-to-one net metering. So I think that what you're sending back to the grid does not get you an equal bill credit. Don't quote me on that, but when we talk about net metering, we talk about like a one-to-one bill credit. So excess production that you have during the daytime gets credited one-to-one on your account at night. But we can, if you want to, same thing, if you reach out to our help desk, we're happy to take a look at your electric bill, take a look at your energy production if you have that from any app, anything like that. But there are a lot of different methods that people use. One is batteries. Batteries are great, but they are really expensive. There are also a lot of low-tech methods that people use to save some money if they have excess production during the day and they don't have one-to-one net metering. For example, what a lot of folks will do is if they have EVs and you're not getting credit on your bill, is you can program your car to or either through the charger or through the car to charge every day between 11 and 4 or something like that when you're getting a lot of that excess production. So that way, you'd be able to use it instead of sending it back to the grid. But lots of things like that. But yeah, we're happy to take a look at your bill and see if we can look at anything as well.
Okay, and how do I contact someone?
Yeah, so Fatima will put it in the chat, but our help desk, you can either reach out solarunitedneighbors.org/help desk or there's the Florida team email address there. We have a big team in Florida, or anywhere in the country you can reach out to us. It's help desk, one word, at solarunitedneighbors.org. Yeah, thanks, Fatima.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dorothy. We've got a couple of questions in the chat that I want to highlight, and then we'll get to you, George. The first was, and Roger, I'm happy to do this if you don't want to, but speaking to the elimination of the solar investment tax credit through the current budget bill, and someone asking about that status. So.
I've talked a lot, Annie. Go for it.
Unfortunately, right now, the current budget that was proposed by the House does eliminate the solar investment tax credit. So that 30% tax credit that you get for installing solar at the end of this year. So December 31st, 2025. So we are hard at work trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. And it's not the end of the road yet. There's a few House votes, and then the budget bill goes to the Senate where they can make additional changes. So, but right now, that's our best intelligence, is that, the way that the budget is proposed right now would eliminate that solar investment tax credit for residential installations at the end of this year. So we're, like I said, we're hard at work trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. So if you are in the process and you get your system installed and turned on before the end of the year, you'd still qualify for the tax credit, but that's the best knowledge that we have right now. And I can also drop in the chat too, if you want to take some action to help protect the solar investment tax credit. We're doing lots of different things with solar owners and supporters across the country. So I can drop that information in the chat as well.
I want to answer Kenneth's question about having solar already, but maybe adding more solar to accommodate an EV. So obviously your EV is going to increase your energy consumption, maybe quite considerably if it's a full EV as opposed to a plug-in hybrid, which is just gas and electric. So the probably minimum barrier that you need to clear is adding enough solar that the solar installation company actually wants to work with you. So usually like 2 to 3 kilowatts is the smallest size system that a solar company will install. So if you can clear that threshold legally where it doesn't produce too much energy that you're overproducing per like the state's official rules about rooftop solar, then you can certainly do it. The question becomes, whether or not you have a central string inverter or microinverters. And if you have microinverters, it's going to be a lot easier just to add additional solar panels onto the roof. But if you have a central string inverter, which is like the big boxes on the side of your house or inside of your garage, you may need to switch out that inverter to accommodate more panels, because probably at that point the system would be undersized. But generally it is achievable. And I think in Minnesota, we're seeing prices in the 250 to 350 per watt range. So if you were to add like 3 kilowatts of solar, that might be, like $10,500 before the tax credit, if you qualify for the tax credit.
Thanks, Vincent. So George, thank you for waiting patiently. You're next.
Okay, well, thank you. So I've been looking at solar. I am in the Mid-Atlantic region, and I'm on several acres of land. I've had 2 different vendors come out and putting solar on my roof. I don't see the financial benefit because the house isn't positioned right. There's a hill in the back, and there's a lot of matured trees and landscaping that I'm not prepared to take down. However, I have a field in the back of my house that has limited use because it's rocky and hilly a little bit, and fairly clear. And I'm looking to do solar basically in that field. What I'm running into is most of the people I call only do roof installations. And so I suppose I have and I don't want to get into all the details here because I know you've got other people waiting, but one of the things is, it's a little bit different in what I'm looking to do. And I'm in the county I'm in, they have, I think you called it 1-to-1 metering. I have someone that put them on the roof. They do get a check from the so to speak, a credit from the power company every month. That's fine. But, it seems to be a little bit of a different animal when you want to place them on the ground. If I'm looking at if that you can call up, is this an area that you would be able to help me in? 1, and 2, are there companies that do more specialization in this kind of use?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. Where are you located in the Mid-Atlantic?
I'm in Maryland. I'm kind of halfway between Baltimore and Washington, D.C.
Okay, great. Yeah, we know a ton of companies there. So same thing. We're happy to reach out. And Fatima, if you could just put the MD team email in there also. That's for we have a team in Maryland as well. We've done programs there for close to 15 years. So we have a lot of installers we know. Most of them are happy to do that. But yeah, we can put you in touch. The big problem with ground mounted solar, which on one hand isn't a problem, because right, the production is better. You can orient it any way you want so that it's facing south. You can put it in an area where there aren't trees. So on one hand, that's great. The equipment is a little bit cheaper because a lot of the time you don't need to worry about microinverters. You can just use a string inverter. The big problem, which isn't a huge problem, is that there's usually an extra cost, because instead of just putting them on your roof and having a little bit of racking, there's usually a cost for the installer to dig down, to put a foundation for the footings underneath the racking. And then there's also usually a cost per foot for trenching, which they'll say like, hey, there's a trenching cost of $1 per foot or something for literally having someone or a backhoe, dig a line to your house to put the electric underground. That being said, a lot of companies will do it. The initial price will probably be a little bit higher than a rooftop installation, but the payback hopefully will be relatively similar because it is usually more efficient in terms of production. But yeah, we can definitely put you in contact with companies that do that.
Okay, so as a follow on the link that you put here, the URL, is that more of like a local branch of your organization?
Oh, so no, we're all over the country. We've about 100 folks, but we have folks that work specifically, not in every state, but I think we've on the ground teams in 12 states, DC and Puerto Rico. right now, and then our help desk focuses on helping places where we don't have staff yet.
Okay.
The goal, but in the team in states like Maryland, where we worked for a long time, we have a team of folks. So that'll reach out directly to them. But the other big secret is obviously we can all get in touch with each other. So even if you were to reach out to the Maryland team, and you lived in West Virginia, the Maryland team could just direct you over to the West Virginia team.
Okay. Greatly appreciated. Yeah, because I'm looking at it, it has limited a growing use because I'm out near farm country, and I don't want to sell it as a residential lot, because that's not the reason why I moved where I moved. But it would be a great location for something like that. And as I'm getting close to retirement, I mean, to be quite frank, I'm looking at one trying to eliminate my bill, and with a piece of ground that big, providing some amount of kind of passive income, that would be really, really nice. But again, I'm finding that it is not anywhere near as common as the rooftop installations. And having looked at that area, it just economically didn't make any sense whatsoever. So thank you. I appreciate the help.
I want to address Antoinette's question in the chat about how much should I expect to spend on new rooftop solar. I am told that our house is perfect because it gets unfiltered sun morning to evening. So it really depends on a couple things. The market where you live can either be more expensive compared to the national average, or less expensive. But I would say maybe $2.75 per watt or $3 per watt. Let's just say $3 per watt might be close to the national average. And so let's say you got a 5 kilowatt system, that's 5,000 watts. You might expect to spend $15,000, so 5,000 watts times $3 per watt before the tax credit or any other local or state incentives. So if you were able to qualify for the tax credit, that would be $4,500 off. Now you're down to $10,500, and then if there were any additional incentives, you would be down further. Then the other question is, are you going to buy the system outright? And then you have the cost of financing that you may have, or if you're buying with cash, then you don't have to finance. But if you have to finance, you have to make sure that you're getting, a more competitive rate as opposed to a less competitive one. But if you're going with third-party financing, you need to compare essentially different metrics. So typically we recommend that people will either buy with cash or finance. And then if you need to look at third-party, do that with a lot more, like a much more critical lens, because your savings is going to be considerably delayed from a cash purchase.
Thanks, Vincent. And also we can help you with proposal review. So if you contact Help Desk using those links that Fatima keeps dropping in the chat, we'll be able to also help you compare proposals to make sure you're getting something that's competitive. Christine, thank you for waiting.
Yes, thank you. I live here in north central Idaho, so we have a ton of sun. But listening to your national average of $3 a kilowatt, I'm paying 25 cents a kilowatt because it's hydropower mostly. My issue is I think solar's the way to go. And also our grid, often we're up in the mountains and often the electricity goes out, especially in the wintertime. And so I was wondering what ratio of power usage to solar savings you really think makes this a worthwhile endeavor. For instance, how much?
That's a good question, Christine. So the question is kind of twofold. How much is the cost of electricity that you're paying?
Right.
And what is the price of solar that is producing that electricity? So your best chances of making it work mathematically is getting the lowest cost of solar possible, because the delta between the two is bigger. But in terms of a percentage of electricity that's going to be offset, if that delta is big enough, if the math makes sense, you're still going to save money even if you install a system that only offsets 25% of your electric bill, if the math is there. But ideally, if the math is there, you would want to go up to, 100% if possible. Probably the biggest barriers to people's economic performance of the system, aside from the cost that you're paying to the solar installer, would be the reimbursement rate that the utility is giving you. So if you export a lot of your energy, like if you're not using it at the time of production, and the utility is not reimbursing you at a retail rate, the question then becomes, how bad is that reimbursement? Because if it's really bad or non-existent, then the economics really tank. But you could look into a battery, and that's called energy arbitrage. But then that also complicates it because the batteries can be quite expensive too. So I would say if the math makes sense at a low level, it's going to make sense at a high level. But it's really a question that you're going to need to have with the solar installers. And then the last thing I'll say is that one thing that solar installers tend to manipulate to make the numbers look better is the utility annual escalation rate. So it's basically the percentage that they think the cost of electricity is going to increase on a year-over-year basis. We recommend 2% as a number in the calculation that they use, because if they go to 3%, 4%, 5%, it's like adding points on a mortgage, but in reverse. Like that would be, more interest you'd be paying, and this is more you'd be saving, but it can be kind of made up. So I would look for that as well.
Okay. Do you have a group of people here in Idaho?
Not on the top of my head. We could probably send you some links. The NABCEP professional directory link that I shared in the chat, I can repost it, but it's a little bit back there. Is a good way for you to use your zip code to locate NABCEP certified PV installers in your area. And you can
Okay.
set the radius between 25 miles up to 500 miles.
Okay. Yeah, I've got the roof that I would put it on is on the top of a riding arena. So it's 30 by 85. I mean, it's extensive. So we could put quite a big system up there. But as you say, it depends on what the power company is willing to give back to us. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Christine. Great question. Jose, you're next. Oh, and you're still muted.
Muted. I apologize. Hi guys. I'm here in sunny Jacksonville, Florida, and I'm out here in the entrance just putting some veteran or entrance decoration on our entrance. But I got solar about, I think it was almost 2 years ago, and I really signed up for this virtual class for the next hour. I think it's a battery up for options. It just I did it because I sold my rental. I was in a higher tax bracket. I was looking for some tax break. I was able to get the tax break, but I almost had buyer's remorse, to be honest with you. I don't understand how you're really saving money. I'm a savvy kind of guy. I went with a local company. I didn't go with a company out of Tampa to install. Synergy out of Jacksonville, the real veteran owned. They've come back, readjusted my my solar system to maximize the solar that's receiving. Clay County is a municipal, I think they call it municipal electric company. It's owned by the public, but they changed the policy. Now it's not a 1-for-1. And it's just, you scratch your head because you're paying, I think I paid $34,000 just for the solar. I got like $10,000 off. So it cost me $24,000 roughly. I went with the loan. That was ridiculous. It was going to cost me $60-something thousand by the time I finished paying off the loan. So I paid that off. But I guess what I'm asking is how does solar really sell itself? These electric companies, they changed the 1-for-1, and it's a publicly owned electric company. Jacksonville, it just seems like electric companies, obviously, they don't want you to go solar. I just don't understand it. Like I said, I feel like I have buyer's remorse. The only other option is to get batteries, but that's I think $15,000 there. How long is it going to take me to pay that off? I don't know what the right terminology is, but sometimes I feel like paying $200 something a month for electricity would have been better. I'm paying when I was paying a loan, I was paying I think I was only making like, I don't know. I don't mean to be long-winded, but I was paying like the electric company, I was paying them $80, and then on top of that, I had a loan for 120. So I'll stop there.
I can take that. Well, first of all, sorry that that was your experience, Jose. And I think that a lot of the bad press that solar gets with stories like Jose's, like an honest experience, is well earned bad press, because you can basically misrepresent. It's like going to buy a car where there's this big information disparity between the seller of the product and the buyer of the product. You know, people don't like buying cars because they get in that finance office and then it's all of these additional fees and insurance programs and stuff that they didn't anticipate. And then they feel pressured, right? So it's a lot of things. I mean, the main things that are within your control are the costs that you pay, like in terms of dollars per watt, and the finance costs. Those are things that, you know, you can control by shopping for your installer. So that's part of it. But then the other big part of your savings, so you want to get that first thing as low as possible. But then the other part of your savings question is, what type of reimbursement will your utility give you? And if you're in a municipal co-op that is not legally bound to offer net metering, you may be giving all of your electricity away that you don't instantaneously consume for free. And so that's a total ripoff. So the general guideline for that is, if you have a utility that doesn't reimburse you one for one, which is called net metering, and in this day and age, it's getting more and more rare as solar becomes more and more popular because utilities understand that it's not helping their bottom line. You want to size your system closer to what is called your baseload energy requirement, or maybe slightly higher. But if you have a solar array that's going to offset 100% of your annual energy consumption, the problem is that solar doesn't just produce electricity when you need it. It produces it when the sun is out. And if your energy requirement at that point in time is less than what the solar is producing, it has to go to the utility. And in that case, with like your municipal situation, they're probably giving you like 20% or less of its retail value. And so that's where you're not seeing the return on investment. It also sounds like in your case, you may have grossly overpaid for what you got, especially in a competitive market like Florida. And then also, I'll just add with batteries. Batteries are very expensive right now. With tariffs, they're going up. With anti-Tesla sentiment, they're going up because people want particular brands that aren't Tesla. And so if the cost of electricity from the utility is pretty low and the value of those exported kilowatt hours are pretty low, it's just going to take you even longer to pay off the batteries because you are just working with a much smaller delta. So I hope that explains it.
Yeah, it's just, you know, you can use the analogy of going to a dealership. I get that. You have an idea. They tell you this is what you're going to pay after 5 years, whatever. With solar guys, people out there that think about buying solar, I'm not trying to be a doomsday kind of person, but just do your homework. And I did my homework. There's companies out there like out of Tampa, you get a contractor and they get a local install, or they send people from Tampa. So if you have issues, they're not going to drive all the way from Tampa. You know, I'm in Jacksonville, so I was able to find that out before I went ahead and got that contractor to come out here. But even doing your homework, getting a good veteran-owned solar company here in Jacksonville, it's just, you scratch your head and say, is it really worth it? Unfortunately, it just sounds like I really thought going solar was the way to go to help the environment and so forth. It's sad that they're doing away with these credits. And when you say it sounds like maybe I overpaid, it's not like you have a solar company as you know, like you do dealerships. So you do your homework, and I just don't understand these electric companies how they're able to do it. But it's just, you know, I'm a little guy, and they don't like solars. I call the electric company. It's almost like I was a bad guy when I was trying to figure out. It was very odd. And even though my electric company is owned by, I can't remember the terminology they use. They do have something on the website to help you figure out, is solar worth it? It just seems like everything is against solar. And it's so sad because it makes sense to have solar, but I just don't
Yeah.
understand. Hopefully my system will last. I don't know. I cross my fingers and hope that it lasts 20 plus years, because if not, that's unfortunate. But anyways, thank you guys. And just one last thing. This forum, who is holding this forum? Is it some kind of like, it sounds like I got this by accident, but it sounds like it's a non-for-profit that's holding this forum to talk about solar.
Yeah,
Is that right?
I can jump in. Yeah, we're Solar United Neighbors. We're the association of homeowners with solar panels. We help people go solar, join together, fight for their energy rights. And just as I've seen complaints on here, which are absolutely that's what we're here for. Just to remind you, I mean, one of the things that we do is we do consumer protection. We're a nonprofit to help people have good experiences with solar. Obviously, some people have had bad experiences as well. But like, we're going to be honest with you. If you send us 3 quotes, we're going to tell you what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. We're going to help you check references, check online reviews, all that kind of stuff. Also, sometimes we'll tell you that stuff doesn't make sense. I mean, we've seen some battery prices that are literally 60% higher than they were a month ago. And in that case, you know, it may make sense to get a solar system and, you know, wait to check on a battery to see if prices go down, because, you know, obviously these markets are up and down a lot.
It sounds like some of the previous folks that were on here, it makes sense for them if they're in the field and the mountains and stuff like that. But yeah, so we'll just see. And thank you for providing this, because this does help. And I'm looking forward to the next hour at 2 o'clock. Thanks, guys. Take care. Happy Veterans Day.
Thanks, Jose.
Yeah.
Mark, you're next, unless anything from the chat. Vincent, are we good? We'll get Mark first, and then awesome.
Okay, I'm up. I can tell you that if you're into solar, to get a good payback, it's going to be a tough go. I'm into solar because exactly what somebody said for it's better not to be dependent on an electric company if something happens. I have a 27 kWh battery system and a 9.5 kW solar system. When I bought it, I didn't have the battery system, and I had 1-to-1 net metering. About 2 years ago, the company that was net metering said, "Oh, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to give you anything." So I shopped around a little bit and found a company that charges me about 11 cents a kilowatt hour for what I use. The unfortunate part about that is by the time you pay for the meter to keep it at your house and pay for the other charges that go, because they escalate upwards when you use a little bitty amount of electricity, it doesn't look like you're going to save a whole lot.
You have a question, Mark?
Yeah, my question is, do you know of anybody in the Central Texas area that does net metering?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think Fatima had posted this, but there is obviously in Texas's deregulated market a lot of retail energy suppliers. I think there are at least 70, and I think only about 10 or so offer some form of net metering. And let me just see if I can find that link. But you are at a disadvantage in Texas, and I understand your frustration because
Not frustrated.
okay, well, but still, what you said is accurate. So
I'm
in
fully
Texas
happy
is
with my
Oh, okay, that's good. Well, in Texas's deregulated market,
Yes,
even though 75% of Texans live in the deregulated areas of Texas,
which I
only
do.
25% of the solar arrays are in the deregulated markets. Most of them are in San Antonio and Austin, where they have locally owned utilities that offer full net metering. So these questions that a lot of people have about savings ultimately come down to the local utility regulations, and that's a good example of that.
Yeah, I pay about 20 cents for how much electricity I use. When you take the cost of the meter and Encore's billing and all that stuff, because I pay 8 cents a kilowatt hour to my supplier, but then another 12 cents is added to it, and they pay me a whole 1 penny to 2 pennies.
So that's something that we need to fix, because every 12 to 2 years, 12 months to 2 years, you should be able to update that.
Well, what they do is every 15 minutes they look at the ERCOT, and I don't want to.
Oh, right.
They look at the ERCOT wholesale rate, and that's what they pay me.
Yeah. There are lots of different billing methodologies in the deregulated market in Texas. So
So
I'll try to repost that link.
you don't know of anybody in Central Texas that does
We actually have a web
1-to-1 anymore,
resource. We have a really good web resource that you can enter your address, and we can give you a report of the best providers that you are eligible for that offer net metering or something akin to it.
Yeah, when I dropped my previous company, I had a $200 credit. I didn't drop them until after 6 months. It took 6 months to go through that $200 credit. My bill last month was $7. So I'm happy camper with it.
That's great. Great.
I just can tell you that at my age, ain't no way it's going to pay for itself.
Great question, though, Mark. Thank you. Jerry, you're up next.
I'm unmuted, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I've been putting some things in the chat, but I do have a couple questions. Do you know, because I've had my solar since 2017, I've put notes in the chat. I'm a financial advisor, and I'm here to tell you solar itself is the best cash on cash investment I've ever made. And I've been doing this for 33 years. So I don't know, and it may be that whatever area you're in or whatever, but so I'm the happiest solar customer on the planet. Batteries are not a good investment, but they are phenomenal peace of mind, because I had 2 Tesla Powerwalls put in either 3 or 4 years ago, and we've lost power like 106 or 8 times. I've never reset a clock. I've been as much as 9 hours with no power, my complete system going, and that's it. And my 8.4 kilowatt system is almost perfectly sized. My bill last year was $120 for the whole year. So, I mean, you can't get any better than that. And I've paid $18,000. I got my 30% credit. And when I did the math on it, it's at least 11.4% cash on cash annual investment. So what people don't understand is you can't look at it like, oh, well, I'm going to put this in and how quick am I going to get my money back? I mean, that's important, but what is it doing? Like if I put my money in the bank and it's earning 0, but I put it in here and it's earning, what, couple thousand a year, whatever the bill is, then that's how you got to look at it. But my question for you guys was, does Virginia still have SRECs? And can I get them to use my Tesla information to pay me for my SRECs, because my Enphase monitor keeps losing connection because of my Powerwall interference. It never did it until I installed my Powerwalls. Now I can't keep my Enphase monitoring system up and running. So I know I hope that's not too convoluted, but I have positive things to say about solar. I've got to get a little bit more involved to help educate people, because I'm getting ready to retire, and it's a tremendous opportunity in the right place. But, we get dollar for dollar net metering. If it were giving me 1 cent, that would be terrible. I don't know what I would do, but I wouldn't be happy. But So
Well,
was that any questions or?
yeah, no, that's totally. We like questions. That's why we're here. Well, thanks, Trey. I appreciate the testimonial, and I mean, obviously, you know, so many of us put in solar, for different reasons, for resiliency, for energy independence, for environmental benefits. But yeah, in terms of savings, it really, really depends where you're located. I mean, even within the same state, just having a utility that does net metering versus a utility that doesn't do net metering. Also, just having different, costs, different regulations, stuff like that really, really affects the price and the payback. I can tell you, for those of you who don't know, SRECs we're talking about solar renewable energy credits. And they have slightly different names in different states, but those are mostly in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. So Virginia has them, Maryland, DC, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New Jersey, Massachusetts. I'm probably forgetting a couple of places, so don't hold me to that 100%. But with SRECs, basically, in addition to savings on your electric bill, you're also getting a check from the utility, which is usually direct deposited every quarter. In some places, I live in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, SRECs are about $30. So if you have, let's say you have a 5 kilowatt system on your home, it's producing 6,000 kilowatt hours annually. That's 6 SRECs. So let's say your average solar owner in Pennsylvania with a 5 kilowatt system would get a check for about $180 a year from their utility, which is great. It's peanuts compared to Washington, D.C., where SRECs are worth $400. So that same system, instead of getting $180, you get a check for $2,400. It really depends on where you live and the value of SRECs. In some states, it doesn't even make sense to register them. And other ones, it's incredibly valuable. And yeah, and
if
go for
the
it.
companies will monitor, let me use my Tesla Powerwall monitoring data to pay those, because my Enphase thing, I can't keep it paired. And if they won't let me use Tesla, do y'all have some helpful information on how I may keep it from knocking out? Can you get a noise interference thing or something? Because it started when the Powerwalls were installed.
Right. Right. Yeah. And then I see Fatima's putting stuff in the chat. That I do not know. I think that would be a good, Vincent, maybe you or Fatima know. I would say you probably need to ask. There are a bunch of different SREC companies out there, and we have those linked to on our website also, like Sol Systems or SREC Trade. Those are basically companies that you register with, and then they register with the utility and they get your direct deposit information. They're basically the middleman or the broker for those SRECs. They'll have a list of compatible devices. I'm not sure if your Tesla, it absolutely maybe, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. I mean, they also may have different requirements for different brokers. So I would ask them, and then if you need help, just because I don't know doesn't mean that we don't have someone that knows. We could definitely help you find the answer. And same thing, I'd reach out to our help desk. You can say, Roger asked me to email you with this convoluted question, and we can find someone who will know.
Oh, cool. I appreciate it. Like you
Yeah.
said, I'm a happy camper. I mean, the only regret is I didn't do it sooner, but it just worked out time wise. But the Powerwalls cost me, I think it was about $18,900, but now that's probably maybe cheap compared to, and I got grandfathered in. I applied for them when I already had my solar, and they were not putting them in anybody's home that didn't buy the Tesla solar panels. So I got grandfathered in, and I'd already bought a backup generator. My generator literally runs a 10-minute test every week, and that's all it's run. It's never failed since I'm absolutely loving my Powerwalls too. But again, that's just peace of mind as we get older,
Yeah, and thank you, Jerry. And I want to pass it to Annie just so we can get some more folks in, because time is flying right now.
It always does with this though, because everybody has such good questions. But Jerry, you reminded me, our VP of Go Solar always says the best time to go solar was yesterday. A good time to go solar is today. So, I think I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, Telvin, John, and then Leslie. We may have time for one more question after that, but this may round us out depending on how convoluted, to borrow another word from Jerry, these are. So Telvin, you're up.
Yes, thank you so much, Annie. I just had a quick question. So I know that Solar United Neighbors usually does, I guess this would be a form of community solar where y'all do joint co-ops and like a bunch or of like-minded people all get their solar systems installed at the same time. My question is I'm trying to spearhead some community solar projects in North Carolina. And this would be a little bit different, or I could try the way that Solar United Neighbors runs it, which is getting these systems installed on individual homes. But what I'm trying to do right now is get it installed on like a plot of land, and then just have subscriptions in which, Duke Energy usually just has you pay like a small interconnection fee, and then like you get the discount for the lowered price of the energy that is being generated. So I just want to know, what do you know about this and any tips on the procedure for like moving forward with the community solar project?
Yeah, that's a great question. We mostly work with individuals, but we do have community solar options on our website, and we can definitely connect you to resources. Fatima, do you want to jump off mute and answer, because you
Yeah.
know the most about community solar here?
Yeah, a great question. And as Roger said, we help individuals with community solar subscriptions. We don't do like a group community solar, but we do have resources, and I'll post this in just a moment. We do have examples of community-led solar, and if you write to our help desk with resources on community-led solar, we have a good resource. We can connect you to one of our colleagues who's here, who has run community-led solar, if that's helpful. So feel free to send out a note to our help desk and we can connect you to that resource.
Thank you so much. And then a quick follow-up, it's a real quick
Yeah.
one, sorry. If I wanted to start a solar co-op in North Carolina, how would I go about that?
You mean on community solar or regular solar co-op?
A regular solar co-op.
Roger, do you want to take that? Yeah.
Yeah, you can just reach out to me, and we can we have our go-to steps, and we are here to support you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Great question, Telvin. Thank you. So John, and then Leslie, I think you'll have the last word.
I have 12 panels on my garage that cut my utility bills 30%, and decided to up it and put 15 panels on the house. And it's literally in the process of happening. But I found that the solar company, Chariot Energy, promised net metering, and I realized that they're not net metering. They're returning the wholesale price for energy that we put back in the system. And I was anticipating being just about zero usage from the grid. So do you have somebody in Houston that you would refer me to that would have net metering like you did with Martin, I believe it was, in Austin area?
So unfortunately, there's no net metering because of the deregulated market. Like Austin has their own market, but we put in the chat the link to the Texas Power Guide. That is our go-to. There's a gentleman who lives in your area who runs this site as his as a side project and works with Sun basically. And what he does is basically looks at your electric bill, looks at where your panels are going to face, and makes some recommendations on the best electric plans based on your usage. So in Texas, there's a button to download your 15-minute utility data, and basically they run through that data and use that to make recommendations on the best plan. I got
12 panels on the garage, and they're putting 15 on the house, and it's all facing south, so I should have plenty of electric.
John, the problem with Texas's deregulated market, perhaps as you know, is that because you can choose your retail electric provider, you're only locked into a reimbursement mechanism for like maybe a year or 2 years. And so it sounds like what Chariot Energy did is they changed their net metering policy.
Right.
And now you need to find, as soon as possible, a better retail electric provider to capitalize on your investment. And if you go to Texas Power Guide, like Roger said, you can import your electric consumption. It's called Green Button. And that Texas Power Guide will run an analysis of the existing options in the market and give you an official recommendation on which retail electric provider to choose. And you're going to probably need to do that for every time that your utility plan is about to expire.
It was for a 3-year contract, but they welched on their end of it.
That's Texas economic efficiency for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Leslie, sorry about that.
Hi, I'm thankful for gathering all this information. I am looking into getting into solar energy. I think it's self-sustainable, not so much for making money, but more for being off-grid, on-grid, if that makes sense. Different terminology. How is the state of Georgia faring as far as solar power in comparison to the other states?
Great question. I don't know where, I know that Georgia is one of the better markets for solar, at least historically, in terms of the amount of kilowatts and megawatts and gigawatts of solar that have been installed. But to be specific, I don't know if it's a particularly strong residential market compared to a utility scale solar market. It really, I think, just depends on if the state has, for example, a renewable portfolio standard and then what those laws actually entail. But a really good resource is called the North Carolina Clean Energy Center, and its website is desireusa.org, DSIREUSA.org. And you can actually look at all of the different incentives in Georgia. You can filter by state and you can filter by technology to actually find the specific like net metering policy or any other types of policy. But generally speaking, if your state has like a net metering policy, or if your utility has a net metering policy, and if you have a competitive solar market where you can get at least, 3 quotes, and there are, if you're eligible for the tax credit or additional state or utility incentives, like those are going to be things in your favor that make solar a better investment as opposed to a worse investment.
That website doesn't link anywhere. Oh, there we go. All right, cool. Never mind. Thank you.
What we're finding, especially with climate change, we're getting hurricanes more often than we used to. And so losing power is getting to be very common on the coast. And because of that, power outage, even if you have generators, and not every area can necessarily afford generators, but I was thinking in terms of being able to donate to community, especially for community areas that cannot, they're lower ground, and so therefore they need to have, because the energy, because they may have city be able to get access to their water, but they can't get access to anything else. And if you're outside the city, then if your well is based on electricity, then you can't get that jump start to get it going. And so that is not something that is talked about a lot, but because of the climate change, now it's definitely on the surface. So I'm trying to gather more information to bring to the community.
That's something that we can look into, Leslie, and get back to you on that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Great. Thank you, Leslie, for your question. Thanks everybody for your questions, and perfect timing. It is right on the half hour. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. This is not the only Go Solar coffee chat that we will have. We will be continuing to do these every couple of months for the foreseeable future. On the alternate months, we'll be doing a policy and advocacy coffee chat. So if you want to learn more about the policy and advocacy work we have going on, definitely don't hesitate to join us next month. And we'll be sending out the recording as well as the links for upcoming events though that'll get to your inbox tomorrow. But we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And thank you, Roger, Fatima, Vincent, and others who are answering questions in the chat. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Annie.